Government Shutdown and Making Bread from Sour Milk. William Hovey Smith, 2019. I'm the author of Backyard Deer Hunting and a Wild Game Cook. And here I use some cooking metaphors to describe the present disgusting state of our government. This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And once again, we're going to illustrate how to use found and spoiled and leftover ingredients to make a meal. And we are now approaching 1 month of the government shutdown. This is a despicable and unacceptable way to govern a nation. I recommend that the members of Congress collectively decide that as long as the government is shut down, they will accept no pay. Furthermore, I think that the members of Congress ought to be fined $20,000 a day for every day the government is non-functional, and that the president, a self-professed billionaire, ought to be fined $100,000 a day for each day the government is non-functional. If you agree with this, please circulate this video with the hashtag #FineGovernment. And maybe with some millions of responses, we can get them to actually do something. So, what do we have today? We have some spoiled milk. It's starting to smell. It will curdle in the coffee. It tastes off. Yes, you wouldn't want to use it. But you've got it. It has food value. You can utilize it. We have a little bit of cornmeal here. We have some leftover vegetables. And we have 4 eggs. And with this, we're going to make a couple of bread products. And I'm actually going to add some protein in the way of canned meat to one of the bread products to actually make a 1-dish meal. But the first thing we're going to do this morning is make some hotcakes. Now, I've shown you how to do that before, and basically what we're going to do is take our biscuit flour here, in here, 2 eggs, a little bit of shortening, and some mace or nutmeg, either way, a touch of cinnamon, mix this up, and make hotcakes out of it. And if you want to see that video, you can go back and do that. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to warm up some hotcakes, and then I'll show you the other dish, which is a little more involved and actually has some protein content in it, so it will count for a meal. Now, if you don't know, this is about the consistency that you want your pancake batter to be. It's a little bit lumpy, which is fine. And so now we start frying up some pancakes, and I can have some breakfast. We've got pancakes in the pan, and I have a square pan, as you see. So consequently, the middle of the pan here cooks faster than the outside edges. So we have to flip this way so that we ultimately get them cooked through equally. Now, because that flour had baking powder in it, the pancakes are starting to rise. Now, if you did not have baking powder in that flour, what you would be making now would be a crepe. And you can make crepes and using your soured milk as well. You just don't add the baking powder, but you do add the eggs, etc., etc., and that'll make you a nice crepe. Crepes are pretty tasteless as it goes. They don't have the spice that the pancake mix has in it. And so you need a little extra something to go with it, such as a fruit compote or fresh fruit cut up with some cream or sour cream or whipped cream, something of that nature, even ice cream for that matter. And so that'll finish out your crepe. So these are starting to rise pretty good. Now the first one in there is starting to get ready for turning. The others are not so far along. I'm going to wait just a little bit more to let this edge start to bubble up a little bit. And then we'll turn the first one. I think we can do it now. Yep. As predicted, these are a little bit browner on one side than the other because of the differential heat in the square pan. I have produced perhaps the worst looking pancakes you have ever seen. But, like our government, they can be made to work. And so we're going to add a little syrup. This is homemade cane syrup, by the way, from right here in my home county. And we are going to enjoy our breakfast. And I hope our congressional delegations in both the House and the Senate, as well as the President, eat equally well. Something not insured for our laid-off workers in the federal government. Okay, see, they're all nicely done. And tasty. Despite being over brown and some would say burnt, yeah, the heavy dose of sorghum syrup alleviates that considerably. These poorly shaped pancakes represent the legislation that will solve the shutdown problem. It will be rough around the edges, serve some members better than others, but will be a digestible product that will completely satisfy no one. I offer basic survival skills in many of my books. These include backyard deer hunting, crossbow hunting, extreme muzzleloading, and practical bow fishing. My newest book speaks to economic survival. It is Create Your Own Job Security, and I'll have more to say about it at the end of the video. Now that we have consumed our somewhat bitter pancakes, we can proceed with our main dish here. The nutmeg left over from New Year's Eve, we finished it up. Now for our meat, we're going to use a can of tuna fish here, which expired in 2014, they say. But it's perfectly good. I mean, the can is not swollen and I'm not worried about giving myself any fatal illness by consuming it. And this is going to go in our cornbread. We have here some leftover seasoning flour that I use to batter deer meat when making a deer stew. It has salt in it, it has a little pepper in it, and it also has dill weed in it. And some few fragments perhaps of deer meat. And so this is going to be salvaged and used to make our bread. It's speckled a little bit with the dill weed and also the pepper. Now, we have some leftover cornmeal. In the South, we prefer yellow cornmeal as a rule. This is not quite enough by itself to make a pan, but combined with the flour, it will. So another thing we're using up out of our leftover ingredients, as well as these other things on the table. We're going to put some onions in it, we're going to put some garlic in it, we're going to use some of these olives in it, as well as the meat. So we'll have an olive cornbread with meat, fish. Unusual. Think of it sort of as a blend of Italian breads, which sometimes have garlic in them, and sometimes have olives in them, and sometimes have cheese in them. And I also have in the refrigerator, freezer actually, a little hunk of shriveled leftover cheese. And we're going to use that in this as well. So I'm going to get around to cutting up our stuff and getting it started and bring you along. We now have everything in a high degree of readiness for our improvised one-pot meal here, which in this case is actually going to be a bread product. We have an onion, which is chopped up here, approximately a third of a jalapeno pepper, which is here, minced garlic. I did not use all of that that I had shown you, perhaps 2/3. A bunch of frozen pre-shredded cheese, which was left over, a can of tuna now opened, as you will see, 2 eggs, and I also added a teaspoon of baking soda to the bread mix here. Now these are going to be combined along with our soured milk and then baked in the oven at 400 degrees. We now have most of the dry ingredients in here. I have diced the olives, as you see, so these can go in now. And these happen to be pimento stuffed olives. They could have been any other. And we mix those in. Add our eggs. I like to cook with this pan on the table when I'm doing anything with flour. That's because you can never keep the stuff contained all together. Alright, that's looking reasonable. Start adding our milk now. See how much that will take. Just a tad more. All right. When I poured it in, a few pieces of dill started floating around on the edge of the milk. That's okay, as long as nothing in here is swimming. And I haven't spotted any weevils yet. All right. Okay, and that nicely fills the pan, just exactly right. And how did I know that would happen? Well, because I've done this recipe countless times before. Usually just with egg bread for making turkey dressing and such. Okay, that looks good. Give it a shake, get the bubbles out. Okay, and in the oven it goes. Whereas before I presented you with one of the worst examples of the cooking arts, Now I'll present you with one of the best. This is much like our Congress. When it works, it produces some legislation that is okay, and some that might be very good, but we have to get it working. This bread represents in many ways America. It has influences from the American Indian, from historic black cooking elements, from Mediterranean elements, as well as from Asia, all combined in a wholesome and very tasty and nutritious product. And this is our country. This is what we're all about, guys. It's not us versus them. This is not some of us versus others of us. This is us. We're all here. Our Congress and our President must act. And my recommendation that they in fact be fined $20,000 a day for congressmen and $100,000 a day for the President is not an unrealistic expectation. It will never pass in law, but at the very least, the next thing the Congress should do is to refuse pay, as well as the President, by the way, for every day that we have this government shutdown. Then, I think it's also entirely appropriate that a fine be placed on them for every day that the government isn't working. Now, if you agree, transmit this video with the hashtag #FineGovernment, and we'll see how we do, if we can put enough moral pressure on them to get something moving. Now, fine is an interesting word in this context, because fine also means excellent, pure, etc., etc. Our government is not working fine at the moment by any person's imagination or expectation. But it also means a financial penalty. I think just as our laid-off workers are facing a financial hardship at this moment, our representatives in government should be facing exactly the same. In short, congressmen and senators should receive no pay for this period, nor should the President. I think it's unconscionable that they are. But now we get down to our meal. So we have meat, and we have bread, and we slice, and it looks good. I'm going to put a little butter on it. And we'll see how we do. The danger is that it might be too salty, because two elements have salt in them. The olives actually have salt. Most people don't expect it, but they do. As well as the salt that was in the breading mix that we added with the flour. So, how are we? You don't even see the tuna in here, by the way. It's there, but it's just not visible. I can taste the salt. I can taste the breading, I can taste the olives, and I get a little bit of residual hit from the jalapeno. So all told, it turned out well. But now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe, goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. I advocate that a person start many businesses throughout their life. This may be as soon as they are teenagers doing simple things like mowing lawns, but get used to the entrepreneurial concept. As they age and go to college, take some business courses along with your major. Then go and work for the man, get your health insurance, etc. But by the time you are middle-aged, already have your own business established and running quietly in the background. Then, should you suddenly be laid off, you have something to fall back on. This book is available from Amazon.com, your local bookstore, and many other retail outlets. If you think as I do, forward this video with the hashtag #FindGovernment. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 725 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoviesmith.com. For more information on my business books, go to createyourownjobsecurity.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.